Good evening. I'm Deborah McMillan from the League of Women Voters of the East Windsor Hightstown area. Welcome to the virtual forum for the candidates in the Republican primary for the New Jersey Assembly and Legislative District 14. That includes East Windsor, Hamilton, Hightstown, and Robbinsville in Mercer County, and Cranberry, Jamesburg, Monroe, and Plainsboro in Middlesex County. The League organizes and runs candidate forums when there is a contest, as there is among the three candidates tonight, who are all seeking the Republican nominations for the 2 assembly seats that will be on the ballot in the general election in November. We are a nonpartisan organization, which means we never support or oppose a party or a candidate. In addition, we do not run candidates forums when there is no contest on the ballot. A recording of tonight's forum will be available on 3 League websites at lwvnj.org, lwvprinceton.org, and lwvlt.org, and also on the League's online voters guide at vote411.org. The recording cannot be edited nor used in part for any purpose, and no other recording of the event is permitted, as agreed to by the candidates. It is my pleasure now to introduce our experienced and League-trained moderator, Ann Torrey. As is our practice, Ann lives outside of Legislative District 14. Ann?
Thank you, Deborah, and welcome candidates and audience. I'm very happy to serve as your moderator tonight. Our goal for this forum is to help you, the voters, learn about the candidates who are running for the Republican primary for the 2 assembly seats representing the 14th Legislative District. There are 3 candidates running for the 2 slots on the ballot to compete against the Democratic candidates in the November general election. Tonight's forum is an excellent way to learn about the 3 candidates. Another way is the League's online voter guide, Vote 411. Before I introduce the candidates, a quick review of tonight's format. First, we're intending to keep the format to an hour. We'll start with the candidates' opening statements, each limited to 2 minutes in an order we have agreed upon. Our timekeeper will start the clock when the candidate starts to speak. She will hold up a yellow card to indicate 30 seconds left. Great. And a red card when time is up. Candidates, as we discussed, keep your eye on the timekeeper, and when you see the red card, finish your thought and your sentence as quickly as you can. Following the opening statements, we'll turn to questions. Candidate responses will be limited to 90 seconds. Again, the timekeeper will not start the clock until the candidate starts to speak. Each candidate will have 1 opportunity to respond to a question, and there will be no rebuttals. I will do my best to ensure that the candidates have equal opportunities to answer and to vary the order of candidate answers. Given our time frame, we expect to cover about 8 questions tonight, and we've chosen questions to avoid duplication and to cover the most important topics to help inform your vote. Finally, after the questions, we'll wrap up with the candidates' closing statements, again limited to 2 minutes each, followed by some very brief voting information. Now, let's introduce the candidates and get started. Alphabetically, we have Adam J. Elias, Skye Gilmartin, and Bina Shah. Mr. Elias and Ms. Gilmartin are running as regular organization Republicans. Ms. Shah is running under the slogan, New Leadership with Vision. Candidates, thank you so much for running and for being here tonight. We will now begin with your opening statements, and the first opening statement will be from Adam Elias. Mr. Elias?
Thank you so much. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for giving us the opportunity to be heard, to give us our 2 cents for why we're running for State Assembly. My name is Adam Elias. I'm running for the New Jersey State Assembly in the 14th Legislative District. My story is I moved to the United States when I was 3 years old. My family moved to Edison. That's where I grew up. I attended the Edison public school system from kindergarten right through 12th grade. Graduated high school in 2006. Went on to Rutgers University, New Brunswick for my undergraduate degree, and I got my law degree at Rutgers Law in 2013 with honors down in Camden. After law school, I became a prosecutor down in Burlington County as assistant prosecutor. Got a little bit of experience working for the insurance defense firm for Geico. In 2017, I decided to hang my shingle, started my own practice. By 2018, my mentor, Daniel Gonzalez, and I joined together, started the law firm of Elias and Gonzalez. Today, we are a firm of 4 lawyers and 6 paralegals with offices in both Perth Amboy and Monroe Township. I live in Monroe with my beautiful wife, Karen. We moved Valentine's Day 2020, 3 weeks before the world turned upside down. We have 3 beautiful children under the age of 5, Addison, Alina, and Adam Jr., who was born on 2/22/22. When I'm not an attorney, I'm also in small business. So right now we own a coffee shop in Jamesburg. We're in the middle of putting a coffee shop together in Hamilton. I want to run for office. I want to bring some new blood into Trenton. I don't plan on leaving New Jersey. I lived here my whole life and I want to raise my children here. And I think it's time for the next generation of leadership in New Jersey. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity. I look forward to answering your questions and giving you more insight into what I'm about and why I want to be the next state assemblyman in the 14th legislative district.
Okay, thank you very much. The next opening statement will be from Bina Shah.
Yeah.
Ms. Shah?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. How are you? Thank you. I started my journey for state assembly back in 2019 when nobody from Republican Party wanted to run for a state assembly position. I continued the same position 2021, and here I am 2023, same position, state assembly. Coming from a working class family, I know that how much the current administration tax and spending policy already hurt it. Being a real estate broker and having accounting background for decades, it's important that I will be able to solve a lot of problems that we face right now and focus on the project. Business analysis, risk analysis, and mitigation strategy will be very useful solving the issues and problems. I'm running for assembly because I believe this is all about making people count, making people feel and be seen and heard. While New Jersey may be one of the more progressive states in the nation, we are woefully inadequate when it comes to percentage women we elect in the office, particularly in the legislative department. We need the leader in Trenton who can prioritize New Jersey's most critical assets and resources. I'm excited to advocate for our teachers, students, small business owners, specifically when I myself is a small business owner, infrastructure and environment. We can be reasonable, we can be bipartisan, and we can be smart enough as long as we respect taxpayers of the state. It is all about affordability in the state of New Jersey. I'm running for assembly because I believe we can make, okay. I'm running, sure. And my account, sure, thank you. That's enough.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we'll hear from Skye Gilmartin. Gilmartin?
Good evening and welcome. Thank you to our moderator and to the members of the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. Thank you for everybody who is watching from home. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be part of the democratic process. My name is Skye Gilmartin. I'm running for assembly in Legislative District 14. I have been your neighbor in Hightstown for 17 years, where I live with my husband, Bob, who is a small business owner. I've worked in healthcare since I was 18 years old, from long-term care to ERs and hospitals to cardiology offices. I've also volunteered locally on the Board of Health for 15 years, the Medical Reserve Corps of Mercer County, the local ambulance squad as an EMT, and I've done some wildlife rehab, animal welfare work, and some work with at-risk teens. Politically, I've been a committee woman for 15 years, a Republican club president, a longtime municipal chair, and I was honored to serve as the lone Republican on the Hightstown Council, where I learned very quickly how to work across party lines to get things done, including maintaining a flat tax rate. I've also volunteered on local county, congressional, and campaigns for governor in Mercer County and throughout New Jersey. I believe the greatest issues facing our community are the lack of affordability in New Jersey. We are struggling to keep our seniors, our college grads, and our large and small businesses from leaving and going out of state. Perhaps most urgent to me is the constant encroachment on parental rights by our government and the educational hierarchy. We're also facing a tremendous mental health crisis affecting from our youth to our senior citizens, resulting in depression, addiction, and crime, and as well as a multitude of social problems. I hope we have an opportunity to address these issues and many more in our limited time this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all. We'll turn now to the questions. And our first question will start with Mr. Elias. And the question is this. What role, if any, do you see for the New Jersey state government in addressing COVID-related learning loss among our students? Mr. Elias.
Thank you. So, first of all, I believe that New Jersey state government should have the paramount role in addressing education matters. Education is a policy that belongs to the states. The founders, framers of the federal constitution believe that education should be left best to the states. And so to the extent that the state is in charge of passing laws with regards to the curriculum, with regards to funding, I think the state very much should bear the same responsibility. State legislature, I feel, was not very active during the COVID-19 initial response. Governor Murphy was handling much of the initial response by executive order. And I think that that really was a breach of what three branches of government should be doing. They should be working together. The legislators should be meeting. They should be discussing ways to navigate an unprecedented crisis like COVID-19. And I think at this point, the legislature should at least try to step up and solve these issues. We should be having hearings, having panels, having experts come in who have addressed learning loss in other parts of the country. And we should find ways to allocate money in the education budget to address learning loss. It definitely is a significant issue that has been documented. And I think that the state government, with all its resources, should be allocating more to solve the student loss so we can go back to having the best schools in the country, which is why many people moved to New Jersey in the first place.
Okay, thank you very much. Same question. We'll hear from Ms. Gilmartin.
Thank you very much for the question. I think COVID was eye-opening for us. I think we came out of it obviously with learning loss, but once we saw our test scores, we realized that it was a devastating amount of learning loss. Our children are very far behind. And I'm not sure that we're making a lot of innovation as far as moving forward or catching up to that. And along with that learning loss, we have depression and isolation and addiction. I also found, I think a lot of parents found during that time period that our education had been infiltrated by a lot of ideology as far as sexuality and CRT and very controversial things that were embedded into our curriculum, and a lack of history and science and math and civics, which is where our kids are testing way behind. Reading levels and math levels are horrible, and history levels and civics levels are unbelievably bad. I think our curriculum levels, our curriculum standards are developed at the legislative level, which is why we need change there. They're implemented by the school boards who are fighting really hard. Many new school board members were elected this last year to change the effects that happened during the pandemic, but they need our assistance in the assembly to change the standards and bring it back to education and not indoctrination.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to just repeat the question before we go to Ms. Shah. What role, if any, do you see for the New Jersey state government in addressing COVID-related learning loss among our students? Ms. Shah?
Yes, thank you. Majority question was answered by both the candidates, so I agree whatever they said, but COVID actually taught us a great lesson how we should address. First of all, I was against closing everything down, locking it down, because it brought a stigma of mental health and addiction for the young generation. At this point, I would say not just the government, but also parents should be equally participate in the school administration and how the children are getting education. That could have been helped more, and it will help more if we have some discipline even in the school and respect our teachers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question, we'll start with Ms. Gilmartin. And the question is as follows. Do you support keeping abortion legal in New Jersey as it now stands, or if not, what restrictions would you support? Ms. Gilmartin?
I absolutely do not support abortion as it stands in New Jersey. If you look at most of Europe, they have 12 to 14 week bans in most of those countries. New Jersey, as it stands, has abortion fully funded by the taxpayers for 9 months for any reason. The only countries in the world that have comparable standards to that are China and North Korea. I don't think that's where we want to be. New Jersey voters have been polled in the last year, and 60% of them, including Democrats, independents, and women, and 60% of them believe in some level of limitation on abortion, and most of them believe that it should be done before 12 weeks, and most of them don't believe it should be funded by tax dollars.
Thank you. The same question, Ms. Shah?
Okay, I believe completely on a pro-life, no abortion at all. As if the United States have an issue with a declining population, and we need more population. So there's no need for an abortion at all. I completely disagree. Pro-life is what I agree on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Elias?
You mind repeating the question?
I do not mind. Do you support keeping abortion legal in New Jersey as it now stands? Or if not, what restrictions would you support?
So my view on abortion comes from my perspective, as a man, as a father of 3 children, I don't think that as a man, I really have any right to tell a woman what she ought to do with her body. As a father of 3 children, I love my children. I watched my wife lose our first pregnancy, and we gave birth to 3 beautiful children. And I don't think it's a decision that we would make in our household, but I don't believe that my personal beliefs should reflect on society, and that's not what government is about. I think it's about representing everybody's views, not just our personal views. That being said, I really think that there are 2 common sense measures that should be in place always when it comes to abortion policy. Number 1, no woman under the age of 18 should be performing an abortion without the consent of parents or legal guardians. Parents, legal guardians know what's best for their children's health, and we need to be informed when things like this are happening. Number 2, I believe abortion should be held to the same standards for insurance as any other medical procedure, and it be reasonably and medically necessary. My wife's a physical therapist. I've watched her. She submits bills, fights with insurance about what's necessary and what's not. Same ought to be done with abortion care. If it's medically necessary, then it should be covered by the insurance. If not, it should be treated as an elective procedure as any other medical procedure is treated. So that's where I stand on abortion care in New Jersey.
Okay, thank you. For the next question, we'll begin with Ms. Shah. All right. And this is the question. If elected to the New Jersey Assembly as a Republican, do you feel you will be able to represent all your constituents, regardless of party affiliation? Ms. Shah?
Yes, and the reason I believe I can is because I have a degree in accounting as well as experience in the land developing projects in Middlesex and Mercer County, which already brought a lot of jobs and still creates a lot of jobs even as I speak. So yes, it's possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will hear from Mr. Elias.
So I absolutely believe that I can represent people regardless of their party affiliation. To point to some of the answer I gave for the last question, my own personal beliefs and my personal values are not indicative of how I believe people should be represented. Everyone's voice should be heard. One of the reasons why I'm running is on a platform of compromise over control. In New Jersey, there has been one-party control in Trenton for the last 20 years. And the reality is there aren't many Republicans. There may be a significantly more amount of Democrats in our district and other parts of New Jersey, but there are many Republicans in New Jersey. There are many libertarians, many unaffiliated, different parties, independent voters, and they should all be heard. They should all have the same quality representation. They shouldn't have to worry about what party their government leans on. They can vote accordingly based on their own values, but they should be able to count on government to do the right thing for them, irrespective of their party affiliation. They can certainly count on me as a professional, as an attorney that represents people with different political beliefs. I can certainly represent people well as an assemblyman with different political affiliations as well.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Gilmartin.
Yes, as I mentioned in my opening statement, I was a lone Republican on a council of all Democrats. So I learned very quickly that you can't get anything done without working across party lines. And as it's been said, we've had one party rule in New Jersey for a very long time, and we haven't seen a lot of working across party lines at all. We have a lot of Republicans who've had fantastic initiatives, including on issues like school funding that would benefit all of us, but there's never any Democrat buy-in. I think a change would see people more willing to work across the aisle. I think we know that the majority in New Jersey are independents and are not partisans, and we can't govern that way. Most of our friends and church members and community members are not of the same party or group or ideology as we are, but we all work together to achieve common goals in our community and our group. So I would take that same mentality into the assembly. I am a listener more than a talker, and I would be glad to work with anybody on their issues.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question will begin with Mr. Elias. A large warehouse has been proposed in East Windsor over substantial resident protest. What is the role of the state government in land use issues such as this? Mr. Elias?
Good question. You know, it's a big, I think the biggest tragedy of New Jersey is that the local rule is, you know, we can't get out of our own way at the end of the day in New Jersey. There's 560 municipalities, you know, over 600 school districts. People value their local government, their local traditions, but you have to have some kind of state standards set across the board. I don't think it should be set by the Supreme Court, such as it has been set for the Mount Laurel Doctrine as it relates to affordable housing. I think that's the role of the legislature. The legislature should be very proactive in setting policy on housing and building. But ultimately, yeah, people move to municipalities and they want to have a say and a voice in their communities. That's how we get the communities involved with planning board hearings and council hearings. If people in a given community do not want certain things to be developed, they have the right to have their voice heard at the ballot box. That's the best way it's going to be heard. If people feel like they can't impact the decisions that local government makes, then that's when they stop voting. That's when they become apathetic to the whole thing. I think the state should step in to set statewide standards, minimum standards, just as the federal government has minimum standards for the states to oblige by in the Constitution. I think we should have some statewide standards that should not be set by courts. They should be set by the state on a very general basis, and the towns should have more specific discretion with how they want their towns to be developed based on what the people want and how they choose for their elected representatives at the ballot box.
Okay, thank you. Same question, Ms. Gilmartin.
That question is very close to home to me, as that proposed warehouse is about 3/4 of a mile from my house. And until it was canceled, I actually planned on being at the planning board meeting tomorrow to oppose this warehouse. Now, warehouses are a necessary evil. We all order from Amazon and like our products delivered the next day, but we don't want truck traffic on our little main streets where our kids run and play and ride their bikes, and on our small towns where our roads are not built for truck traffic. So the placement of warehouses, I think, is very important. And that's where I think local control is actually important. This particular warehouse is set in the middle of a small amount of open space that's left in our area. It also includes wetlands. So it's very dangerous. It doesn't provide close access to the turnpike. It will access directly onto the main street of Hightstown, which cannot accommodate the weight. The infrastructure is not there for the amount of truck traffic here, not to mention the noise pollution and the air pollution that will come from those trucks. So in this particular situation, I think it's a bad idea. I think warehouses have their place, but it needs to be determined judiciously with respect to the small town life that it affects.
Okay, thank you very much. And same question to Ms. Shah.
Thank you for questioning me, because I'm heavily involved in that stop warehouse in East Windsor. If you see all over the signs on the road where it says stop warehouse, as a matter of fact, I'm the one who initiated big meeting in East Windsor, which is the one reason that planning board in East Windsor delayed this matter until June or July. We can't have this warehouse. Obviously, it was zoned back then, 10 years ago or so. But being a real estate broker, I can acknowledge this fact that before that, all this residential were not there, and that's how it was zoned. I'm completely against the warehouse, and that's because If this warehouse comes, then there will be 18-wheeler trucks going on the Stockton Street, as well as Airport Road, as well as Westfield Road, which will actually damage very much to our school buses, as well as children parks, and as well as elders walking on the street during the summer or even at night time. So obviously, I certainly did participate against a warehouse already, and they are planning to do a meeting again, but it's unlikely that they will continue to this. Come the way I responded and made the township aware that we are against of it, so they did try to stop it now. So most likely it's not going to come. And I'm glad that I participated at the right time and the right place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question, we're going to start with Ms. Gilmartin. If you are elected to serve in the New Jersey Assembly in November, what do you see as the most important actions that you can take in your first term? Ms. Gilmartin?
Well, as earlier, I think parental rights and the curriculum standards are extremely important, and they will be coming up soon. I've been to rallies and meetings and school board meetings, and thousands of parents across the state are upset by the extreme changes that have been made in the curriculums lately. So changing that curriculum would be, those standards would be very important to me. Obviously, the budget issues, we are wasting money hand over foot. We have billions of dollars of COVID money sitting there being unspent. Some of it isn't even allocated, over $1 billion, which we may lose back to the federal government because we haven't used it. And I would have input on how that money is spent. I think our budget needs to not be going towards personal projects and pork. Our own Assemblyman Wayne D'Angelo has voted for 57 tax and fee increases, including pork, for like issues like a French culture museum in Jersey City, things that have no benefit to the people of District 14 and should not be coming out of taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Same question to Ms. Shah. Ms. Shah?
Yes, let's make this LD 14 as more affordable state legislative department. The reason is because we see, as a real estate broker, I see people are moving out. We can make it revise the property taxation very easily. I have, being a real estate broker, I have developed so many lands that actually have benefited District 14 a lot. So there has to be revised taxation. And at the same time, as Ms. Gilmartin said, we need to make sure that the allocation of certain money that we receive from a federal government needs to be allocated to certain other places also, so we can minimize the property taxes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And same question to Mr. Elias.
So I would piggyback off of what Ms. Gilmartin said about the COVID funding, to the extent that that's something I've been reading about this week. It's definitely a concerning issue as far as whether that funding is going to get pulled back. To the extent that that money is not spent by the time, if so elected, I would want to definitely prioritize that allocation as well. Otherwise, I would really focus on the education funding formula. You know, right now as it stands, it's very inequitable. There's nothing fair about it. 40% of the state budget, state aid for schools, which is about $20 billion in the upcoming budget, is concentrated in 10 out of the 600 school districts in New Jersey. 5% of that $20 billion is going to one school district. There are 600 school districts in New Jersey. And what we're seeing, especially in District 14, is municipalities that are being punished who have spent and managed their money wisely. Look at Robbinsville. The last 5 years, they've done a tremendous job managing their money. Now they have to look at potentially having to lay off 35 teachers. So the suburbs shouldn't be getting punished. I 100% agree that the urban districts, the Abbott districts need to get more resources, but we have to make it equitable. State income taxes were enacted in 1976 for school funding. It would help our seniors if they didn't have to worry about a $30,000 tax bill, and they could know that their income, being in a lower tax bracket when they retire, would reflect less spending on education, which is what they would prefer. The parents who have their kids in schools should be bearing the brunt of education, who have the higher incomes, and the corporations and everyone else. But fair funding needs to be addressed ASAP.
Okay, thank you very much. For the next question, we're going to start with Ms. Shah. And the question is this: During the 2022 election, ballot tabulators failed to work properly in Mercer County. What role, if any, do you see for the state government in ensuring that all registered voters can cast their ballots easily and with certainty that they will be counted? Ms. Shah?
Right, thank you. But the best way to do this is make sure that there has to be a trial and error needs to be taken place in the first place. If the machines were not running, then they should have first tried it properly, whether it's running properly or not. And that's the only solution I see. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Same question, Mr. Elias.
Yes, up until 2 years ago, there was voting on election day, and then there was absentee ballots. Obviously, up to 2020, when Governor Murphy imposed the executive order that everybody would have to vote by mail, tides have turned a bit, and a lot of people have found it to be more ideal to vote by mail. I talked to a lot of Republicans who wish that they could just vote on election day, and they feel that that's how everybody should vote. I talked to Democrats who prefer the vote by mail system. Either way, these are laws that were imposed by the state, including the early voting 9 days out from election day. They provided the mandate that we start voting early, and they kind of put it on the counties to figure out how to do the poll workers and the training. And if it's going to be a state law that's governing the voting system, then the state should be responsible for training people. The state should be responsible for helping us get more poll workers. I know in Mercer County, I'm driving up and down 130 every day, seeing billboards and signs everywhere of a poll worker shortage. So I think the state could definitely do a lot more, to the extent that they've burdened the counties with their policies. I've seen the county clerks meetings where they're just, overstressed, with the overspread thin, with very few staff. They have to now work 9 days. They have to, vote by mail, count ballots till 6 days after the election, or after, it's insane. So we definitely think that if the state's going to impose laws and make it harder for people or the counties to manage the voting system, then yeah, they should be able to fund it as well. Otherwise, they should roll back and go back to the old way of voting on election day, the way everyone was raised to do.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Gilmartin.
It's a great question. Unfortunately, it's very convoluted what we could do if elected on a state level. It's very much a county-wide issue, and statewide, all of our counties do this very differently. Half of our counties have 2 election agencies, a clerk and a superintendent, or a board of elections. Mercer County happens to have 3. And in this year, in this situation, everybody passed the buck and nobody took accountability, because the problems went way beyond the tabulators not working. There was a lot of issues. I was a challenger in this election. I firsthand saw that the poll workers didn't know what to do at the end of the night. There's a loss of chain of custody. There were ballots that were lost. There were ballots that weren't counted. There were provisional ballots that weren't counted. Hundreds of people filed provisional ballots, and they were told that they were not counted because they had signed the ebook. So I think on a state level, there needs to be some regulation put in place over the counties to create some unification from county to county on how this is done, and to normalize perhaps all the same machines. And as Adam said, unfortunately, we may have to lean more toward vote by mail so that people can feel more secure in where their ballot's going, and then risk confusion on election day.
Okay, thank you. I'm just checking. Did I get everybody on this question?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Sorry. Next question, we're going to start with Mr. Elias. Well, immigration is primarily a federal issue. What, if anything, would you like to see the state do in respect to immigration and the many foreign-born residents of New Jersey? Mr. Elias?
Well, like you said, immigration is a federal issue, so the state is very limited on what it could do as far as immigration policy. States can open their doors, of course, and they could close their doors. Florida obviously have been very vocal about how they feel about the migration coming in. They're sending buses of undocumented residents to other parts of the country, and then places in New York, they're saying we're overwhelmed. So I think the states really need to be a little bit more interactive with the federal government, have an ongoing dialogue. It should be, they should be both collaborating. The federal government and state government should work together. I think everybody should have a pathway here. I'm an immigrant myself, so The American dream is still very much sought out in the world, despite what you may hear in the media. I think that you have to do it the right way. And I think our budget needs to go more towards people that actually came through legal channels. I understand humanitarian reasons why we want to fund undocumented residents, but the state really should prioritize the people that came here, that worked hard over the years, and we should find a pathway to citizenship for those who are here undocumented, keep them employed to the extent that they can help the economy and keep them safe. But I mean, really, that is a federal government issue. And so the states really need to lean on the federal government, and the federal government needs to be more deliberate in how they're going to work with the states on solving this crisis. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to stop anytime soon. So we have to find an ongoing solution to it where all the states can really get behind the federal government.
Okay, thank you. And same question, Ms. Gilmartin.
Thank you. I am blessed to have been born in the greatest country, but I've also traveled a lot and I've seen how people live in other places. I've been to Mexico and Brazil and Costa Rica and the Dominican Republic, and not just in the resorts. I've seen how people live and how poor their lifestyles are, and I don't blame them for wanting to come here. I would want to come here if I lived there. But there is a process, and we've had an open border for years. We've absorbed millions of people, and most of that absorption has been in the border communities that don't have the infrastructure to absorb millions of people. So yes, some of those people are being shipped to New York and Chicago, and suddenly they're feeling the burden of being overwhelmed. And that's one of the difficulties. Some states and cities have chosen to be sanctuary cities. And by virtue of that, they have a responsibility to absorb some of these people that are being sent by Arizona and Florida and Texas. So I think this is really a federal level. I think we need serious immigration reform. Congress needs to get over themselves and learn to work together. But New Jersey, because this is going to come to us, we need to prepare the infrastructure. We can't even take care of our own homeless as it is right now. Our shelters are overburdened. So I think we need to make preparation to absorb as many people with as much charity as we can, but we need to encourage people to follow the proper channels in coming here.
Okay, thank you. And same question, Ms. Shah.
Yes, being legally immigrated from India years ago, I believe that there has to be some procedure we need to follow for all these people that are coming. Our local, state, and federal government all needs to be working collectively to make sure the illegal immigrants, if we are going to accept them, there has to some policy has to be set up in such a way that benefits the people who are already living in this country. So that's all I can say.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question, we're going to begin with Ms. Gilmartin. Can the state do more to make housing affordable for low and moderate income New Jersey residents? Ms. Gilmartin?
That is a huge challenge. And the Mount Laurel Doctrine has put a lot of responsibility on municipalities, and that's very challenging for us. But that's also challenging as we face a higher economy and a higher inflation and a higher housing market and a large proportion of low-income people who are struggling to find housing. The rental markets are horrendous. It's hard for seniors. It's why we're losing people out of state, because it is very difficult to find low-income housing. So yes, I do think the state needs to do more. I think we need to work with our communities, but I don't think it means mandating each municipality to do more, because many of our communities are just absolutely built out. Like the one that I'm in, there's absolutely no room for more. So I don't know exactly what the absolute answer is to that, but I will be studying it and looking into better answers than what we have now.
Thank you. Same question, Ms. Shah.
Being a real estate broker and a land developer, I can say we do need a more low-income housing. As the population is increasing, there are a certain population who cannot afford to have in this market a higher value of the homes. So state and federal, we should be little liberal to build some more affordable housing that would actually help the population. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Elias.
Yeah, I believe the state can make the state more affordable for lower and middle income folks. by making the state more affordable. The reason why it's so expensive for housing in New Jersey is because the cost to live in New Jersey is so expensive, and that's because the cost of government is so expensive in New Jersey. So as I mentioned before, if you shift the student aid back to the income tax was supposed to be allocated to student relief, student budgets for property tax relief. Property taxes, nobody should have to spend 54 cents on the dollar based on the property that they live in, especially our seniors. So it'd be a lot more affordable if the education funding was coming out of the state income tax. We brought in $22 billion projected for 2024 from the state income tax, and we're putting $20 billion back out in state aid. So if you actually focus more on the income tax part of the student aid and you made property taxes more affordable for people, the rents would be lower, and then housing would be more affordable for people. I know people who are moving to Pennsylvania just because of the property tax bill is lower. I'm a property owner. I rent out property to folks, and the income tax is almost, the property tax rather, is almost as much, if not more, than the principal and interest portion of a payment. Rents have to cover that. So if I didn't have to pay that much of property taxes, I could make lower rents. And we could do that by lowering the cost of government, allocating the student budget back to the income tax allocation, have that targeted towards funding our schools to make the state more affordable for everybody the way it used to be.
Okay, thank you. I think we have come to the end of our questions. So everybody, thank you for doing a great job with your thoughtful answers. Everybody take a breath, and we will move to the closing statements. We're going to begin the closing statements with Ms. Shah, followed by Ms. Gilmartin, and then Mr. Elias. All right, ready to go?
Yes.
Then your closing statement, Ms. Shah.
Okay. Hi, thank you, everyone. I just want to mention that I'm running for a state assembly position because I believe this is all about making people count and making people feel and being heard. Today, the car has become keyless, communication has become wireless, and cooking has become fireless, food has become fatless, sweet has become sugarless, and our needs have become endless. This is because we have became godless. This is a one nation under God, and I ask you to make the right decision to make a vote for on June 6, 2023. That's only cool. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And your closing statement, Ms. Gilmartin.
Thank you again to the League for hosting this forum, our moderator, and for everyone, Adam and Bina, thank you for participating, and thank you for everyone who watched and submitted questions. I hope we were able to define our positions and clarify our differences. As has been established, we have many urgent issues before us. If elected, I will fight the rampant spending in Trenton. I will fight new taxes. I will work to empower law enforcement and repeal bail reform, which has created a revolving door that puts violent criminals back out on the streets. I will advocate for parents, seniors, and small businesses, and we will fund education. There's a plan in the Assembly right now that has backing in the Senate that will fully fund education out of the budget surplus and will create a 6 to 7% property tax rebate for every property taxpayer. But the Democrats won't touch it. So you need to elect us so we can have a majority and get this passed. I will fight for fair and transparent elections. I will work to achieve a government that works for you and not the special interest. I'm not owned or beholden to anyone except my conscience and the Constitution, which, unlike Governor Murphy, the Bill of Rights is not above my pay grade.
All right, thank you. And
Do I have a moment?
Oh, you do. I'm so sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I thought you were ready. I thought that was your big close.
No, I just need.
You have more than a moment. Go ahead.
Scripture teaches us that we should care for the least of these. And to that means our grandparents in long-term care, our kids, especially those with special needs, the disabled and the unborn, our heroes in veterans' homes, and those struggling with mental illness and addiction. As you can see, my heart is full of compassion, but my backbone is steel. Actually, it's titanium, thanks to surgery. I won't just talk, I will listen, I will learn, and I work hard. I'm not a politician, I'm a public servant. If you still have questions about me or where I stand, please reach out to me at skye4assembly@gmail.com. Thank you, good night, and God bless.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Gilmartin. And finally, a closing statement from Mr. Elias.
Thank you again to our moderator, to the League of Women Voters for giving us the opportunity to present tonight, to our timekeeper, and Skye and Bina for coming out, for standing up for the cause and running for office. Nobody wants to do that these days. I grew up in New Jersey. I love New Jersey. I guess I've said from the beginning. My first 21 dates with my wife were in the 21 counties of New Jersey. I'm not going anywhere. Millennials in New Jersey right now are the largest population, yet they're the most underrepresented in Trenton. I know people hate that word millennial, but that's what we are. And we are the young families that are the future of New Jersey, and we need a voice. There's a handful of legislators that are millennials. And at the same time, we have to support our aging population and our seniors. I'm blessed to have both my parents still alive. They live a mile away from me in one of the senior communities in Monroe Township. And I want our seniors to stay. When I knock on doors, I tell seniors, I want you to stay. I don't want, the program for too long has been to come to New Jersey, work in New York or Philly, go to the best schools in New Jersey, retire down in Florida. I tell folks that I want to see you retire here with your grandkids. My wife and I are blessed that our parents both live within about a mile radius and they can come see their grandkids when they want. It's not hard to make New Jersey more affordable. You just need to get new blood in Trenton who has the solutions. I'm a business owner. I know what it means to run a budget. I know what it means to run payroll. Government needs to be run like a business in the sense of managing finances responsibly. Difficult decisions are going to have to be made in Trenton in the next 20 years. There's no doubt about it. And we need people that are prepared to make those decisions. We need adults in the room. The people that have been in Trenton have been there for far too long. And if they're ineffective, they need to move on. And we need to get new blood in there that has new ways of getting things back on track. As I said, I'm a huge advocate for getting the state income tax back for school funding. That alone would make New Jersey significantly more affordable for our seniors and lower income earning residents. I love New Jersey. I believe I'm the future of New Jersey. My generation is the future of New Jersey. I hope I can count on your vote in the primary and the general election to be your next voice for New Jersey in the 14th legislative district. Thank you again for the opportunity, and God bless you all.
Okay, thank you very much, candidates, for participating tonight, for doing an excellent job. Kudos, and indeed for running to serve your community. To the audience, thank you for demonstrating your interest in being an informed voter. This is how we make democracy work. Before you log off, a few quick reminders about voting in the upcoming primary election. The primary is Tuesday, June 6th, with in-person voting from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. at your regular polling place. You can vote for the candidates we have just heard from if you are a registered Republican or an unaffiliated voter who wishes to declare party affiliation at the polls. Early in-person voting will be available June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That's the Friday to Sunday before Election Day, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday and from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the other days. If you vote by mail, you can return your ballot to a drop box up to the close of the polls on June 6th. Alternatively, mail your ballot or deliver it in person to your county election office. You can still apply to vote by mail. Your application must be received by the Board of Elections by mail by May 30th or in person by 3 p.m. on June 5th, the day before the primary. For polling places, early voting sites, and drop box locations, check with your county's election office or visit Vote 411, the League of Women Voters online voter guide. One last word, if you're watching tonight, I know you are a voter, but I'll say it anyway. Don't forget to vote, and please encourage friends, families, and neighbors to vote too. With that, good night. Thanks again to everyone on and off the screen for making this a most informative evening. Good night.
Good night.